three of us up here. I'm Joe Galbraith, the partner at Galbraith Carnahan Architects. To my right, I have Reinke, who is the project manager on the project, and then Herr, who is an architect, but also played a very important role in this project as a board member for the Friends of Lapham Peak. So the way we're going to structure this, we're not going to show you a bunch of photos because we're doing a tour of the building, so it doesn't make sense to do that. We're going to talk a little bit more about how this project came to be, what's the background behind it, how is it funded, and then we are going to hit on some of the key learning objectives about architecture design, programming, some of the building systems that are unique, and then in terms of insulation and some of the building mechanical systems, and then trying to fulfill those goals of the health, safety, and welfare related to this project. So initially, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, who's going to talk a bit about the context and the background of the project.
Thanks, Joe. I'd like to talk a little bit first about Lapham Peak. For those, especially those of you who may have not been out here before, Lapham Peak is actually a unit of the southern Kettle Moraine State Forest, but that takes a long time to say, so we just call it a park, which it is, it's a park. It's also with over 600,000 visitors per year, Lapham Peak is the most visited state park without a campground. Certainly Devil's Lake and some of the other parks around the state have more attendance, but we have 600,000 a year. And unlike most state parks, our greatest attendance is in the months of December, January, February. And that is because not only do we have beautiful cross-country ski trails, but we're the only state park that makes snow. So the Friends of Lapham Peak have really initiated, built the snowmaking system, and volunteers run the system. So we make snow in the winter and hold races. Lapham Mountain is one of the bigger races in the southern part of the state, and the Wednesday night ski series is well attended. It's not only a winter season park or a winter season building as Lapham Lodge, but many people come to the park to hike, to run. There'll be a mountain biking trails on the west side of Highway C, and there's even equestrian trails on the west side of the highway. So it's year-round park with wonderful facilities, especially with the new Lapham Lodge. If you continue up the road to the hill, you will see several other structures. There's Tracker Lodge, which is the next parking lot and structure as you go up. It's more of a historic building, but again, lots of stone, and the roof was just replaced this summer. As you continue up to the next parking lot, you have the House and Nature Center, which was the house of the original owners of this property who donated the property to the state to create the park. And then one more drive up the hill, reach the tower parking lot, the wood lookout tower, which is the highest point in Waukesha County. So what we began with at the trailhead here, which is outside the windows, is the Evergreen Park Shelter. It's the building on the south end of the parking lot. The small 1,400 square foot building has been really the centerpiece of the ski community for about 20 years, but it's way too small. So it's been in the master plan for the DNR to replace that building, but the DNR is very short of funds. Wisconsin is the only state now that does not fund its state parks with taxpayer dollars. The parks are funded solely now from sticker sales and admissions. So there's a huge backlog in capital projects and also maintenance. So it really is Friends groups that have sprung up at many of the parks that are taking on the challenge of capital projects. So back in April of 2021, we had two donors, Paul and Keeper, who made a $500,000 donation for a new lodge at Lapham Peak. That donation set in motion this 4.5-year effort. And it started with the Friends of Lapham Peak board approving to go ahead with the project and then forming a building and fundraising committee. That building committee then created a subcommittee which included 3 architects, Bruce Reinke, Sam Emeritus, and myself, as well as civil engineer John McCarthy, who's also on the Lapham Peak board, and then the lead donors, Paul and Rita Keeper. Paul and Rita are longtime board members and cross-country skiers. They really have been impressed with the reforestation lodge at Reinke in Green Bay. So we started with that as kind of a concept in terms of the look and function of the building, but we really wanted to get input from the park users. So in June of 2021, we started meetings with 11 different major stakeholders here at Lapham Peak. From those meetings, we then generated a space needs program, which showed the need for about 5,800 square foot building. Also, we then started looking at site options. It was determined by the Lapham Peak board not to demolish the evergreen shelter, but to repurpose it. So we really started to look at what other options there might be. This whole area on the other side of the trail is designated wetlands. Then we have the parking lot to the west. We have our septic system to the north, and the Ice Age Trail to the south. So this kind of became the preferred site. We did play around with orientation, moving north and south, but quickly this became the preferred site. We had Bruce develop some conceptual drawings and based on our program. And we also worked with Steer Construction on cost estimates, which came up to about a $2 million project, construction cost. Of course, this was in July of 2021. We're just coming out of COVID, and prices were starting to really skyrocket. I'm sure everybody here knows that. And so our fundraising challenge was pretty extreme. But we kept at it. In August of 21, we met with the DNR, and they also have a whole program of expectations for Friends groups that endeavor to take on projects like this. The Friends board, we could have decided to let the DNR build the project, but the DNR admitted that it would take much longer and be much more expensive. So the Friends said, we'll take it on, we'll plan it, we'll decide it, we'll fund it, and we'll build it, and then we'll turn it over to the state. We'll donate it back. And so that's the direction we took. As volunteers, our design committee decided that we really wanted to work with an architectural firm to refine our design, take it into schematics, EDCs, and ultimately construction. And so we undertook a selection process, interview process with proposals, interviews. We used QBS as much as we could. And as a result of that process, we hired GCA to be our architect. That was back in November of 2021. And on the fundraising side, we, with a $500,000 lead gift and a $2 million construction cost, we had a lot of work to do. What really helped us a lot is we became aware of a potential federal grant. The American Bricklayers Foundation had applied for this grant. They shared information with us, and so we talked to the Economic Development Administration in Chicago that was administering these grants. We were able to basically pursue $1.3 million grant with the federal government, and I started working on a grant, which I never had done before. So that was pretty scary. But after about a month, the DNR allowed me to consult with their professional grant writer. And that was a godsend. And together, we put together this application, which was submitted in February 2022, and then we were awarded the grant in September of 2022. So with the 1.3 million plus the 500,000, we were within range of making our goal. But fundraising continued, and we started working with Joe and Brandon on finalizing the design concepts and really fine-tuning the budget to be able to proceed with hopefully this project starting construction in 2023. However, working with the DNR is not easy. Our design reviews were 6 months. So basically we lost a year. But in the end, it worked out really well.
Yeah, just before I pass the grant, I don't know if Mark fully knows this, but we were on the original RFP distribution list. So we didn't have a copy of this, and just through a couple of the architect connections that we have, I think it maybe flowed from Engberg Anderson over to a good friend of ours, Patrick Jones, who is married to a partner at Engberg Anderson. They both, I believe they passed on it and said, this seems like something that you guys would be a good fit for. So we reached out to confirm, I think with John McCarthy, to confirm, can we submit on this? And he said, yeah, sure. And so we gathered our proposal and sent it in. And it was just a real privilege to have that opportunity to apply for a project at such an important place in my life, and I think a lot of other people's lives. So that was kind of how we ended up in that. We weren't on the original short list, but ended up there in the interview room with the team. So.
Mark had mentioned we came on the project in November 2021. There had already been that schematic design that was done for the group, the Friends group. So we kind of started refining that a little more and finding out where the budget challenges were, what materials we could use. So kind of keeping with that original scheme of this long shed roof, the lodge portion, flat roof portion, kind of reaching out to the parking lot, kind of keeping that scheme in mind here and continuously finding that and almost the way that ended up coming to be was very cute with the original design. And the original design had these large trusses that weren't really defined. They were confined this main lodge space for a lot of people who could be these larger lodge spaces. So as you can see, this is a very dominant design feature within the space here. And then show rendering of the space with a lot of the exposed ducts or decking on the roof here. Go to the next page.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, the very dominant, like I mentioned, the dominant element of the space with these custom barricaded wood trusses that were a lot of credit to Bob Anderson builders who actually constructed these from scratch out in the parking lot there. So I think a lot of trial and error into the first one, but they all ended up coming together. all these, these intricate connections with all these bolts and washers and nuts going all together here. It really makes the space here. The roof of this portion of the building is a structural insulated panel. We're getting around R60. Some of the detail challenges with that, some of the pushback on the DNR, they never used that before, and kind of had come up with a continuous vapor barrier throughout the whole building that they need to maintain. So with that being this great fall, infill between them, we're able to maintain that on this portion of the building here. And the flat roof portion over on this part is all just stick built 2x trusses, and they're 24 inches deep. So we're able to maintain, which ended up having to double those up because of, as we'll see later, there's no exposed HVAC ducts in this space or this building at all. So everything's running in that low part through everything comes through these nozzles here on the west side of the building. You can use just a general building section through the main entrance there, so you can see where there's a lower portion. And actually, the roof trusses only go through a small portion of the building here to get through because of that raised tensions over there. As you can see by that wall section too, there's a lot going on in this first 4 feet of the eastern wall here with the stone piers, which we, rather than having flat masonry, we placed some 1-inch projections on there to create some digital depth and shadows on there. That's missing from a lot of modern stonework. And then as well as there's a series of these benches and where the porch surface along there, there's a series of electric fit tube heaters that provide heating to the glass to prevent condensation from forming. So a lot of that is all in. You want to see it. It's under a wire mesh that's on the window there.
That's it.
Okay, so everything is a bar shading under for continuous insulation. So I think we're getting the walls are around R30 in total. So a little more insulation than code permits, and then as well as a complex mechanical system that I alluded to with all these ducts being concealed, these nozzles that open and close when needed. I think there's like 4 VAPs that power the space, as well as the mechanical inventory, see the tightness of that, and the large cooling shades that are required by the DNR. And normally we 1.5 by 3 feet wide. And something that later on that the Friends group was working on was getting solar panel already put on the building, which we were able to achieve later. And I think the payback right now, I think we're able to get about 50% of our electricity through that right now. This data ribbon cutting, not only did we work with the designers for this project, but also the landscapers, manual labor for this project. So we spent the day out here as a group, the team building exercise, we found all the trees and the plants we saw in front of the building as we came in.
We're credited as architects of record, but there were so many people that put a lot of energy and effort into this before we even got on the scene. All the way through the projects, I mean, these were probably some of the most involved clients that we could have imagined. Having architects as clients and engineers is definitely good at looking out for all the blind spots on projects. So you're getting not only our internal QC reviews that we do, but they're taking a look at the plans. We have the DNR review process, which if anybody's gone through is a bit of an onerous process, but it really helped us when we got into the bids. We did have to we went through a sealed bid process because of the EDA funding for the project, and we had 9 bidders, which was, I would say, a very good turnout for not that large of a project. And I think it was because of Lapham Peak, because people had that interest in the project, and I believe the winning bid was under the projected budget at that time, so that was a positive, and it allowed for things like the solar array and some more money put in to landscaping, furniture, and things that just help on the operational budget for the project. So,
just a little bit more information on funding. In addition to the $1.3 million. We also had $250,000 that Cindy Duco, the local state representative, was able to get in the state budget the previous biennium. We really needed that money to proceed with the project. So that was, godsend. Also, the city, the Delafield Promotion and Tourism have donated $100,000 to the project, so that was also extremely helpful. So this was an ideal public-private partnership. In addition, about $800,000 was raised just from Lapham Peak users and friends. So it was a tremendous amount of very generous donations. Donors that were over $2,000 or over are recognized on our donor wall on the west wall there. John Hallett is an artist that came up with the concept and actually implemented this wall sculpture. He's also a very good cross-country skier and designs and creates a lot of the trophies for the American Group Provider. We are at about just under $3 million total raised for this project, which is incredible when you think of our initial budget was $2 million. And but we had a memorandum of understanding that we had to sign with the DNR, which also requires us to pay out to the first 5 years of operating costs for the building at $18,000 per year. So, that's an additional $90,000 potentially. Again, City Duco came to our aid, and she was able to get the first 2 years of operating costs covered in the current state budget. So we're just now obligated for potentially 3 more years. That's assuming that the DNR does not get the building into their annual budget cycle in the next biennium, which we don't know if they will or not. The other requirement of the DNR was that we had to have up to approximately 10% of the building construction cost as a fund to be used for future maintenance and improvements for the building. So a few weeks ago, we came to an agreement with them that fund would be $200,000. Again, that's another additional funding that we have to come up with. That $200,000 will be, we have 5 years to come up with that. We're already looking at different improvements to the building that could come out of those dollars. So we also have a donor catalog that is in the brochure over in the lobby and the bulletin board, which lists other furnishings and furniture that have not been fully funded as yet. So of our total dollars, we've raised about $115,000 for furniture and furnishings, and there's about another $100,000 in items that have not been funded yet. So we're still raising money, and if anyone's interested, you can go to the Friends of Lapham Peak website to make a donation. We also have a donor brick program, so if you look in the patio, outside these windows, and also a pathway to the grill on the north side of the building, you'll see lots of donor bricks. So that program also raised over $100,000, and we're continuing to sell bricks at $200 for 4x8 brick and $500 for 8x8 bricks. Again, if you're interested in that, you can check the Friends of Lapham Peak website. And I just want to say that I think I can speak for our building committee that it was a joy working with these guys and with GCA. It was great to see their attention to detail. That was what really impressed me, taking our very simple concept and creating this beautiful building. It doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of skill, and then to do it within our budget was also really impressive. Altia's building company was a little bigger, and they did a great job in executing the design. They also paid a lot of attention to detail, and we were looking over their shoulder constantly. So I'm not sure how much fun they had in this project, but I think it turned out well. We were nominated for a state of Wisconsin tourism award this past summer, and although we didn't win it, we were in the company of many other big projects, including the new American Percolator building at their trailhead. So we hope to have other awards in the future. Also, energy efficiency was a big part of this because we were obligated to cover operating costs for 5 years. So we were able to get quite a few donations to the solar system, which we installed this summer. And we also did get a focus on energy grant as well for the surpassing the state requirements on energy efficiency.
Before we walk around and do a quick tour, just want to open it up for Q&A.